Squad, Deployment Part 15.
Ready again, I guess.
Lock and loaded. Oh, it's interesting. Kind of continuing on with something. Did you know, Jova? You know, we were talking about the AI at the end of the previous part.
Yeah.
Well, you know what's the interesting part, Jova? One of the primary complaints, from what I've seen and from what I've researched, fans have with Gears 5.
Oh no.
Is the AI. Apparently, the AI in these games was already not the best. It was serviceable, but not the best. But apparently, Joe, Gears 5 is the one that has the bad AI. Holy crap!
Oh my god! You know, that's a bit...
I do wonder if it's something that the coalition just can't get right, and possibly, potentially, the original release of the first Gear was not this convoluted.
Oh, wait till you see Gears 4.
There's this guy. Oh, trust me, there's this Gears YouTuber who's been playing Gears even since all the way back in 20. So he's like a big, serious veteran. He knows his stuff. He's made plenty of videos. Explaining how broken Gears was at release and how it has been for a while. Like the multiplayer, the ranking system in particular was broken as all hell. Like even though he kept winning matches, he still kept his rank wasn't going up; it was actually going down.
Oh,
like it's the
Logic.
ranking system was flat out broken. Like I don't know if it is at the time of this recording. I don't know if it's been fixed. But that's still inexcusable. Like,
When you say Gears, you're talking about Gears 5, right?
Gears 5, yeah.
Oh god, you know, I just hope that Microsoft don't do that stupid trend of all of a sudden stopping numbering these things and just call it Gears.
I don't know, of War. Maybe the next game will just be called 6.
Not just that, remember, Java, before 4 and 5, they seem to have gone through that direction with Judgment. Remember, I only got discovered recently that it's supposed to be a spin-off and not a mainline title.
Well, yeah, well that's the thing though, that's a spin-off though, so I can understand why that may not be
Java,
numbered.
I didn't knew, for all intents and purposes, I thought that was the real Gears 4.
I recently started it, so I can actually answer you that too. Basically, it's a prequel to the entire series.
Oh,
and even though it's technically a spin-off, it seems to be in the canon. Everything's
so
lined up.
Gear Zero,
yeah, Baird is the main character, and it's still. And even though the issue too is that apparently Cliff Bleszinski and other staff at Epic Games did leave Epic Games after Gears 3, so Gears Judgment was still a good game. Apparently, it was missing some stuff, like the absence of Cliff Bleszinski was very felt, and I can already tell.
Considering what he has done in recent years, I'm not sure he could have brought the, enough decency through that game.
Oh no! No! Let me put things into perspective for you two. Cliff Bleszinski was the absolute Gears guy. Like, okay, that's not to say that credit isn't deserved for the other people who worked on it, but there would be no Gears without Cliff.
So I guess he went to the John Romero route then.
Yeah, this is something that people always need to remember. A lot of people like to talk about how, what are you talking about? He didn't make the game on his own. No, nobody's saying that. What we're saying is that he led the team in the creation of this game. Because, you know what, allow me, I'll be quick. One cool thing that I like that was said by the 9 Old Men, in case for those who don't know, the 9 Old Men were Walt Disney's big core of animation gods that made all those Golden Age movies that we know. In an interview about Snow White, one of them, this was years after the fact, he was already old by this point, he said, and he specifically said, if you check the credits, if you take a look at all those names on the credits, and I can assure you, even if all of us were there, all of us in the same studio, in the same place, without a Walt Disney, I can assure you, there will never have been a Snow White. And he makes a good point. And he makes a good point with that. Yes, of course, games and movies are made by an entire production team. That's true. However, you still need a leader to lead that team and to steer and make sure every single member of that team is working toward the same goal and that the project doesn't go off the rail.
It's like
you need a capable leader. In Gears' case, it was Cliff Bleszinski, at least for the first 3 games.
Yeah. So you've started Gears of War Judgment. How you liking that so far?
I'm liking it fine. I just don't like what they've done with the control scheme.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Here's the thing about Gears Judgment. It's still a cover base. It's still basically the same Gears we all know. The difference is that it has some slight little different things, like it has side missions, or maybe not technically side missions. You'll be doing the missions. It's more of a mission structure type of game. However, it still has the same cover-based shooting mechanics and level design. The thing is, you can also have imposed challenges on you, so you can win more points. Because that's actually a scoring system in that game, unlike the other ones. That's fine. My only issue is that the game controls exactly like the previous Gears, but they've pulled the Sonic Unleashed. They've completely changed the button mapping. Okay, you know how in Sonic Unleashed, for some reason, they've mapped the homing attack to the X or square button, depending which console you're playing in.
Marcus,
Yes,
is
sir.
that you?
Hold on, might as well wait
Line
for this.
repair's complete. What's the status on that train?
Not good. The Locusts are on board. They're throwing our guards onto the tracks.
And tying them to it, for God's
Grid
sakes.
power levels, your bridge is still inoperable.
Options?
You're close to Timgad Central Energy. If power can be restored, that will be the place to do it.
Roger that. We're headed there now. Delta out. Let's move.
All right. Okay. Okay. So the controls of the first three games.
Oh, I love how those monsters were so polite as to wait until we finished our transmission before they blasted in here on us.
Convenience.
They're very polite that way.
Yeah, it's just like I remember you making that same observation in our Final Fantasy 14 playthrough. Yeah. Okay. The controls in the Gears trilogy are the same exactly you'd expect from a cover-based shooter. You L2 to aim, R2 to shoot. You use the D-pad to select your weapons. 1 out of 4. You know. The Uncharted games also have these mechanics. However, for Gears Judgment, they've decided to completely. Oh, and by the way, the grenade is one of those possible 4 selected weapons that you can once again use L2 to aim and R2 to shoot. However, for Gears Judgment, they've decided to completely revamp the button mapping, where there's no using the D-pad to select your weapons. Instead, you have a selection of weapons, and you circle through them by pressing the Y button, or triangle button if you prefer. And it completely threw me off right from the beginning. Why? That's such a pointless change. And the grenades now have their own dedicated button, the L1 button, even though they were selectable weapons. Like, don't get me wrong, it's not a bad thing. It's just that after playing through the first 3 games, it completely
Muscle memory, it's a problem.
Not only that, but mapping anything
there's
that's
no
not.
reason to do. There's no reason for this.
Not only that, but
whatsoever.
mapping anything that's not movement to the L1 button. Oh wait, never mind. L1. You didn't say L3.
No. The L1 button is for throwing grenades, even though they use the exact same controls as the rest of the weapons in the main games, and I don't understand why the fuck they changed that.
It is such a shell shock. Like you really do feel like maybe it's because they didn't have all the same team on there, but that is still quite a drastic change. Like people may undersell it, but the way a control scheme for a franchise works can be very integral. Like, well, imagine if, say, for Smash Bros. 6, they completely changed it to the point where, holding the right analog stick doesn't give you smash attacks anymore, but now it just does light attacks. Like, that alone would mess with a lot of people, unless that was the custom setting they put it to in the first place.
I mean, nowadays for me, it'd be like if, after all those years of being used to how GTA 5 does weapons, you hold down one of the directional buttons and use the analog stick. It'd be like if all of a sudden, you have to keep tapping the triangle button to change weapons.
And God forbid using L3 and R3. Don't get me...
It depends. We'll have to see how the PS5 controller handles that.
You see, guys, in the main games, the L1 button is used for the purpose for status purposes, in the sense that you can for turning on a little radar that can tell you where your party members are, and it can shows you your current objectives in case you forgot. But in this, how you do that in Gears Judgment? You press down on the D-pad.
Oh my god!
Why? Just use the already existing control scheme. Like, what was wrong with that?
Wow.
I mean, don't get me wrong. The game's not bad. I'm not saying the game is bad because of it, but
It's a silly thing to do.
I've literally played for the original trilogy back to back. I'm now these controls are now second nature to me. So playing Gears Judgment right after Gears 3 completely threw me off. Like, it's just... Like,
is it sad that I missed when that was the biggest complaint people had about Gears of War? Because, yeah, from what I recall, that's like the biggest complaint about that spin-off, aside from some other things.
So far it's the only complaint I have. Like, and don't get me wrong, I'll get used to it, but goddamn, this little warning curve was unnecessary. Yeah, it's completely unnecessary. Like, and it's unintuitive, and like, okay. The Gears Judgment was a co-development between Epic Games, once again, and a development studio called People Can Fly.
Oh, they're the guys who making that UMP for Square Enix, so the one we saw at E3.
Wait, really? Yeah. That one?
Really?
Yes, that shooter, that new shooter, that new first-person shooter. That's.
Let me check.
Jeez, it really is a small world.
After all.
Yeah. So maybe it was their decision? I don't even know.
Jova?
Yes, Dwibsy?
Not for nothing, but Disney haven't bought Square Enix yet, so...
Don't worry, Dwibs, it will happen someday.
I mean, don't you see, Dwibs? Don't you see, Dwibs? Kingdom Hearts was part of the way to butter Square Enix up for the buying eventually.
Basically, they seem to have been buddy with Epic Games for a while. They also developed Bulletstorm with them.
Okay, then. I just don't under. I just don't under. Mr. From whoever was like, what were you thinking with that control scheme? Come on, you're killing me here. Like, if that was my if that was my first Gears game, it would have been easier. But after playing 3 games in a row, yeah.
Pre-producer Piotr Krzywonoziuk, Alan Van Slyke and Chris Wynn. One major programmer, Gregor Mokarski, 2 artists, and 2 writers, Rob Alston and Tom Bissell, but those, don't have to do it with the control scheme.
Yeah, not only was Blazinski not involved, Joshua Ortega, the one common writer the first 3 games have, was not involved either. So yeah, that's the main reason why it's a spin-off. It wasn't really made by the key developers of the original trilogy. Some of them are, there has some common stuff, don't get me wrong, but yeah. And from what I can tell, apparently the campaign is actually shorter than usual.
Oh,
definitely. The main writer of Gears Judgment, Tom Bissell, is the guy who will be one of the mainstay writers. He will become the lead writer for both Gears 4 and Gears 5.
Oh dear.
Fortunately, I have Xbox Game Pass Ultimate until May 1st, so I'll be able to. So I won't even have to pay for those games.
Thank you, Games Pass.
Yeah, too bad it completely devalues your first party releases by essentially putting them in a bargain bin.
But guys, what about PlayStation Now?
Well, here's the main difference about PlayStation Now. For PlayStation Now, they only put in games that are old, and they're not even there permanently. They're there for a period of time. Yeah. And second, we already had Jim Ryan tell us specifically that the new games that are coming, they're not going to put them on PlayStation Now day and date, because for Jim Ryan, we want those games to be, the release of those games to be clean and pure, and treat them like the big media events that we do. So no, that's not going to be an equivalent scenario. Whereas Microsoft, instead of it's like I've said, the main reason why Sea of Thieves was in Games Pass day and date is because they knew that game would not have anyone play it otherwise at the launch, at least. Because even Phil Spencer, apparently, from what I've seen, even Phil Spencer admitted that game was saved by Game Pass.
Gee, maybe it's like intentionally making a game that is 1 quarter actually done and releasing it 1 quarter done with not really much substantial stuff was a bad idea. Never mind the fact that the one thing that a lot of people were hoping for, the Kraken, isn't even really that great a thing, seeing as how if you dive underwater, it's nothing but a mass of tentacles. So talk about a letdown, and when you defeat it, it just vanishes, and you don't even really get that much an ending cutscene.
What? Does the Kraken die off screen?
Well, technically you have to fight it, but in terms of it
There you are.
dying...
It's better than Pirates of the
Seriously,
Caribbean.
you're comparing a video game to a movie. Try again.
Both have Krakens in.
Okay, Dwibs, I
That's
think...
enough for me.
Okay, Dwibs, I think you like Kingdom Hearts 3 in regards to what it does for World's End, seeing as how you actually do get to fight the Kraken in that.
But in that case, Jova, you still eats tentacles. So
Yeah.
Where's your parallel?
Oh my god, you're right, it is a parallel.
Yeah.
Mind you, Jova, Kingdom Hearts 3 is doing a service in that kind of way because it's saving the Kraken for the confrontation at the end of the third movie, where it shouldn't even be there. So at least there's that. And besides, it's one of the few moments where in Kingdom Hearts 3 you actually get to fight the Disney boss.
Tell me
So
about it.
that,
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed the Caribbean in Kingdom Hearts 3.
Not to mention,
Also, the ship gameplay was actually pretty
the
good.
cutscene immediately after is worth the entire game just to see Sora going apeshit and trying to kill Davy Jones with his bare hands.
Yeah, that was
the Keyblade.
that was amazing.
Goes
Seeing,
apeshit.
seeing him, Donald and Goofy just tackle Davy Jones like
I
that.
want to remind that it's a Disney project. Well, I get that Sora is not a child anymore. He's like, what, 15, 16 at this point? What, or 15 at best. He was still trying to attempt murder on adults just with his bare hands. Kids got issues.
Well, okay. To be fair to you,
Pedro,
consider.
look at it in again. I know that it's most definitely unintentional, but look at it in context. Sora has been stripped of his family and his home for years at this point, going through this merry chase against these eldritch abomination and people taunting him, while having to deal with so many different wars and alien creatures. I'm pretty sure right now he's not right in the head.
Oh yeah, especially considering what happened to him in Kingdom Hearts 3D. Like that boy got absolutely touched in the head.
Again, too, it's anime. Allow me to remind you that the first ever. Allow me to remind you too that the first ever manga/anime was about a robot boy fighting giant monsters. So yeah.
So let's just put things into perspective, though. Sora's mother is still probably waiting for him with that dinner.
For getting that fucking
I'm pretty
dinner.
sure Sora's mom died from starvation because she refuses to eat before her son comes out.
Oh no!
Watch Jova
Yeah, that
as
sounds
okay,
like-
no, that would be getting spoiler territory.
That
but
sounds like something I'd like.
Or maybe his mother got trapped in Virum
Jova,
Rex.
It also said something, but remember, one I didn't told her during our run, but one of the original drafts of the script that Taro had in mind for the first Nier was more deliberately to be a twisted parody of Kingdom Hearts. And the only thing that remains from that draft are the shade that looks a bit like the Heartless with the black and yellow pattern, and the fact that the bosses have names based on fairy tale characters. The idea originally was supposed to have the main character, boy Nier, the one that the Japanese version got, to travel between two different portals, I think, that will lead to micro levels based on classical fairy tales.
Let me guess, Disney jumped in and said no.
No, I think it, again, please remember, Nier had a huge trouble development cycle. It was the last game Kavia did. They barely had money on their own, and a couple were pulled in order to help them make Final Fantasy 13.
Oops.
So, and a lot of content had to be
Actually, it was only the sequels that Tri-Ace worked on, not the original.
No, I'm talking about Kavia, the team who made Nier. Kavia got closed after that. Remember, the budget. It's the exact same thing that happened with Monolith and Xenogears back in the PlayStation 1 day. Square Enix blatantly, robbed the money of a budget of a studio just to help fund the main Final Fantasy game that they were making at the time.
Again, it's a good thing Yoshi Wada's gone now.
But I gotta say, it really is amazing that even despite how Nier turned out, they actually had the stones to release not one but two different versions of Nier. All and the one
These more like a marketing decision.
Yeah, this
well,
I actually did mention. Hold on, Joe. This I actually did mention in the run. It was indeed a marketing decision, but from Square Enix America. I don't know how Wada was involved with this, aside from greenlighting it. But again, Square Enix America was convinced that audience would have liked Boy Nier. Not to mention, again, there were some parts of the original script that were not that safe for for the Western audience. So they basically retooled it into Papa Nier and called it a day. Hold on.
This just goes from bad.
I know,
to
right?
worse.
You said it, dumb.
This really sucks. Control, we're at Timgad's Central Energy.
Oh, finally.
What's your status?
Just moving
Oh,
in now.
yeah.
Wish us luck.
Well, good luck.
Take Jack and head right. Dom, let's get that power online.
I love how Jack has this tendency of just warping in whenever someone says his name.
Technically, it doesn't warp. He's just invisible.
Yeah, he just normally again I get the idea that in gameplay normally he stays invisible and conveniently off the side to avoid bullets, stuff like that.
Makes sense. He's kind of their hacking expert, so it makes sense he wouldn't want to
But
get
yeah, at the end
hurt.
of the day, they did change it. Japan still got the edition with Papa Nier, called it one is called Replica and the other Gestalt. But it's the Xbox 360 version, so of course nobody cared about it. So, and unfortunately, Tar itself said that for all intents, as much as it's cute that the Western actually liked Papa Nier, for all intents and purposes, Bro, as it's called, Bro Nier, is the one that is canon. So we
Really?
Yona, his sister, yes, Yona, sorry.
That's... Wow, it feels so
And
weird.
also, like I said, like I also said in the run, like I said also in the run, it also makes sense with the relationship that him and Kaine starts to develop later on.
True, yeah, I'll admit, it was a bit weird when Papa Nier seemed to potentially have the, yeah, that was a bit weird. You know, I wonder if it warrants a playthrough of that version.
No, Joe, but again, I explained all that I needed to, and at worst, I remember, Joe, right at the time of his recording, there seem to have been rumors about a remaster of that game. If that comes out and adds supplementary material, I'll of course handle that and we'll tell our information. Besides, again, I need an excuse to showcase a thing that actually couldn't in time back in the day, i.e. the drifting with the boar, stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. You know, that does make me
But about
wonder.
other potential missing information, stuff I already covered, stuff about like the full extent of the Gestalt project and the connection with Drakengard, I can tell you, Nier Automata actually has an entire part of its data log dedicated to explain pretty much in detail what I already said. So the sequel does the job for me. Anyway.
You know, that does make me wonder, actually. Now that Nier is considered popular enough, if they were to make a remake, do you think that they would remake both versions of Nier, or probably just what's
I don't
considered
know.
the canon
Again,
version?
there's a lot of speculation up in the air, Jova. Some people think we should get just the Bro version. Others bet they will have enough space to give you the choice to do that. Others bet they shouldn't even bother and instead focus on implementing the cut content and improving the performance. I don't know, Jova. At the end of the day, I just wait and see.
You know, on the subject of Nier,
Yes,
Yeah.
having played through one of the endings for Automata,
yeah.
Uh-huh.
I can see in some areas where I think maybe Kataro is better at being a storyteller than he is a game designer maybe because
Absolutely, Dweebs. Again, one of the main problems that the Drakengard series and
pretty
by extension
glitchy.
Nier, no, not just that,
Well,
they've
wasn't that
been
game designed
playing.
by Platinum Games, though? Isn't that the whole purpose of getting Platinum Games to make the game, though?
Yeah,
Yeah,
but that's the
that
thing.
too.
Taro was still the director.
Well, true, I
Oh.
suppose, Dweebs, but if it happens in a glitch, it's because of something that the programmers accidentally fuck up.
Well, but here's the thing: he's not the game director; he's the scenario director. So usually in games, there's two directors. There's the scenario director or story director, if you prefer, who handles the direction of the cutscenes and all that good stuff. And then there's the game director who handles all the game aspects.
Oh Jesus, I can't.
And the game director for Nier Automata, if I remember
You
correctly, was someone from
again.
Platinum. So
Yeah, it was a conjunct operation and all.
I can't even remember
The only
what
other
sort of
exterior,
credits.
the other exterior was the producer, was the same one for Dragon Quest XI. So
It's the same thing. Wade is actually the same way. Wade is actually much like Yoko Taro. Wade is a much better storyteller than he is a game designer, which is why he always has I forgot his name, but there's one in his team who now works at game design.
With Shadow of the Colossus and Nico, it was Kenji Kaido, but he departed during the development of the Last Guardian.
Well, maybe I'm sure he has someone else though. Who handles the games. So basically, again, it's this.
I remember before it was outsourced to Japan Studio with Last Guardian. Ueda actually had his own team, Team Ico. So
yeah, it was the same thing with Last of Us and Uncharted 4, where Neil Druckmann was a scenario director and God, what's his name? I forgot. I'm drawing a blank right now.
Bruce Straley.
That's it. Bruce Straley was the game director. So this is a common thing in video games. Like, if someone is the one who's better at one of these two aspects is the one who directs that aspect.
Which is funny because didn't Bruce Straley start off as a artist or something?
Yes.
Well, Crash Team Racing.
Well, yeah.
Wasn't it like for the
somewhere.
probably just Crash Team Racing, yeah.
I mean, remember, Stanley Kubrick originally was a photographer. Like, and it was because of being a photographer, an experienced photographer, that he gained a higher level of cinematography that other filmmakers did not have.
every single frame I paint exactly how I make it.
Yeah. Kind of makes you wonder why he didn't do some of the cinematography himself, because there are filmmakers who do both of them on films.
Who's to say he didn't?
He did tell one of them off because he wasn't doing as he was telling him.
Oh yeah, I don't think I've told that story to
To which movie was he tied?
The Killing. Basically, it was the movie that he made before Path of Glory 2. Basically, this was back before Stanley Kubrick was a household name, so obviously didn't have the prestige back then. So basically, however, he did manage to get a cinematographer who was one of the more acclaimed cinematographers in the industry at that time. Because remember, at the time, Hollywood was a completely different place than it is now. Nowadays, it wasn't that hard to get a big-time cinematographer on a small project. It was a different time. And the cool thing, here's what happened. Basically, because unlike Stanley Kubrick, who was a newcomer still at the time, that guy was already kind of a veteran, like who did cinematography for dozens of movies by that point. So he was very like, who's this kid from New York who like so basically one thing that he did do is that he basically Stanley Kubrick told him, I want this shot to be like this and this and this and this, and he put it with I apologize to everybody if I'm getting the terms wrong. It's been a while since I've seen the documentary. So basically he put a specific shot that was done with a 5mm lens, you know. And it was like, I think it was 10 meters away from the actors or something like that. Whatever, I can still make my point without remembering for a minute. Who's next? However, when Stanley wasn't looking, the guy decided to completely change the shot by switching to a 10mm lens and putting the camera in a different position. You know, and then when Stanley Kubrick noticed it, he asked, "What are you doing, Lucian?" That's it, Lucian Ballard. What are you doing? And he asked, just normally, what are you doing, Lucian? Why are you putting the camera there? Why didn't you put it where I told you to put? And Lucian said, well, I haven't changed anything. I'm just, I put the camera closer, but it's with the 10mm lens, which gives me the exact same coverage that you asked for. So, and Stanley asked, but what about the change in perspective that occurs? And Lucian said, that doesn't matter. For those who are not familiar with cinematography, that particular comment from Lucian is dead wrong. It's a different shot. The perspective changes.
And considering he's a cinematographer, he should know that.
That's the thing, Dwebs. He knew. That's the thing. He was trying to bully past him. He was just trying to do something. He specifically said, I remember this part. He said, I'm doing like this because it makes my job a whole lot easier.
Oh boy!
And it'll go by fast. So basically, he was phoning it in because who's this little 26-year-old kid who doesn't know anything, you know? So basically, he was trying to bully past him, you know. And Stanley Kubrick noticed. So he and according to the guy who was his friend at the time and worked on the movie as well, Stanley Kubrick said in a calm way,
You mean we're stuck?
Put the camera where I told you, with the lens that I asked for, or leave the stage and don't come back. And from that point on, there was they just did their work, and there was never anyone arguing. Which is true. You're here to do the work. He's the director. He makes the call. So do it.
Yeah, I mean, if you, I mean, regardless of how old he is your boss. I mean, just because he's younger than you doesn't mean that, you know. I mean, if all things weren't like that, I'd be like if Peter Jackson did what his cinematographer told him to do. How old do you think all the rings would have turned out?
Oh god, yeah. Anyway, I love how this section of the chapter is called Jurassic Proportions.
Because he looks like a T-Rex.
So yeah, the Brumak boss battle works like this. Every time, here's the key to finding a Brumak, and by the time I got to Gears 3, this was already instinctive. Here's how a Brumak fight works. When you don't have a big turret or like a big tank weapon to fight the Brumak, here's what you do. First, you have to take down his weapon because he has 3 guns, one on each arm and one on the head. What you're supposed to do is you have to destroy his guns. You destroy his guns, then he'll not be able to shoot you anymore, and you'll be. So basically, don't shoot the Brumak itself. Shoot his gun. First the arms and then the head.
Figures a giant guy who's smart enough to use weapons.
Well, no, as we're gonna learn later, but it's not so much the Brumaks that equip themselves.
I know.
It's the smarter locusts like the police.
I was mainly talking about the fact that he's smart enough to use them, not that he puts them on himself.
Ah, okay then. Well, I guess, yeah.
Yep.
Be careful as well, because if this guy gets near you, he can one shot kill you. So
I imagine.
Oh, I found out. Yeah, I said earlier about why Kubrick just do both. I found out why.
Well,
Cinematographer's unit said he couldn't.
Huh.
He couldn't be both director and cinematographer.
Yeah, I think at the time there was some kind. Now it doesn't exist, but I think at the time there was some kind of rule in Hollywood that. I think. Well, hold on. Didn't Charlie Chaplin like do practically everything by himself in his movies?
Yeah, but those were like.
I remember when
Those weren't really commissioned by Hollywood.
I remember when after the McCarthy trials, some people used pseudonyms, but oh Jesus!
Possibly.
Okay, let's roast this thing. Run to the Transformers. Where? Over
It's
there.
more than meets the eye.
Oh boy, that may have pissed him off. Ha! Just like Jurassic Park.
Must go faster. Must go faster.
Oh, there we go. We're doing this like in the Pop-Up Girls, that Pop-Up Girls episode. Let's throw the monster into the electrical wires. Yeah,
What an
exactly.
idiot.
It's exactly like in that episode.
He actually beat it. What an idiot.
I'm pretty sure this thing's brain is no bigger than an orange too.
And I thought the food in prison smelled bad.
Wah, wah.
Anya, bridge powers restored.
Finally.
Moving out.
All of these to lower a fucking bridge.
Could say we killed 2 birds with 1 stone.
Roger that.
Jump on a moving train and try to recapture a bomb. This stage just keeps getting better and better.
I know, right?
Keep talking, Dom. Keep talking. Though he's right.
Congratulations to me.
Yeah.
Desperation.
Special
Imagine
delivery.
What if, like, at the end of the game, that came up and that were meant to be like the final words of the characters? Well done. Now decide your Xbox Live.
Well done, gamers. And if you sign up with Xbox Live, you can continue the fight against the locusts.
Yeah, for like 2 more months before we shut the servers down.
All right, tune in to the next part where we finish the game.
See ya.
Dandy.
Yeah.